The Phantom's Gambit. The void between stars held its breath as the nightfall drifted through the Meridian sector like a whisper of death. Captain Zara Voss stood rigid on the bridge, her weathered hands gripping the command rail while her steel gray eyes fixed on the tactical display. 3 years of hit-and-run attacks had carved deep lines into her face, but her resolve remained unbroken. Hegemony Patrol bearing 27 Mark IV. Lieutenant Beck Torres called softly from the navigation console, his cybernetic eye glowing amber in the dim bridge lighting. They're running a standard sweep pattern. Voss nodded curtly. The IEI, Alien Empire's ships moved with mechanical precision through the asteroid field, their bioluminescent hulls pulsing with predatory grace. Each vessel was twice the size of the Nightfall, armed with plasma cannons that could vaporize a human cruiser in seconds. "Mako, how's our ghost protocol holding?" she whispered into her comm. Chief Engineer Mako Jin's gravelly voice crackled back from the engine room. "Like smoke in a hurricane, Captain. They can't see us, but one wrong move and we're space dust." The Nightfall was humanity's greatest secret, a stealth frigate built from salvaged alien technology and human desperation. While Earth's colonies burned under hegemony occupation, she represented their last hope for striking back. Today's mission would either turn the tide or see them all dead. Kronos Station loomed ahead like a metallic cancer against the stars. The massive hegemony stronghold bristled with defense platforms, each one capable of detecting a ship light years away. Yet the Nightfall slipped between their sensor sweeps, invisible as shadow. "Torres, bring us to Docking Bay 7, Voss ordered. The one with the maintenance cycle. Her lieutenant's fingers danced over the controls with practiced precision. The ship glided forward, matching the rotation of the colossal station until they locked onto an outer service port. Through the hull, they could hear the hiss of atmosphere equalizing. "Intel says the command center is 12 levels up," Voss said, checking her sidearm. "We get in, download everything about Operation Cleansing Fire, and get out before they know we were here." Mako joined them at the airlock, his scarred face grim with determination. The hegemony had glassed his home colony 2 years ago. Every man, woman, and child reduced to radioactive ash. He carried that weight in his eyes, that hunger for justice that made him invaluable. The trio moved through Kronos Station's corridors like ghosts, avoiding the 6 armed hegemony guards with their compound eyes and razor-sharp claws. Emergency. Lighting cast eerie shadows on the biomechanical walls that seemed to pulse with alien life. "Command center ahead," Torres whispered, his cybernetic eye providing thermal imaging through the walls. What they found in the central database chilled them to the bone. Operation Cleansing Fire wasn't just another offensive. It was the complete extermination of humanity. Every remaining colony, every hidden base, every refugee ship. The hegemony had grown tired of their resistance and decided to end it permanently. "Download everything," Voss ordered, her voice tight with controlled fury. As the data flowed into their portable drives, alarms began shrieking throughout the station. Red lights bathed the corridors as hegemony voices chittered in alien panic. They'd been discovered. "Run," Voss commanded. They sprinted through the maze of passages as plasma bolts seared the air around them. Behind them, the station erupted into chaos, but the Nightfall was already powering up, her engines singing Freedom's Song. As they jumped to hyperspace carrying humanity's darkest secret, Voss knew their real war was just beginning. The price of victory. The underground tunnels beneath Tempest Prime reeked of decay and broken dreams. Commander Havik Reese crouched in the darkness, studying the stolen intelligence from Kronos Station on a flickering datapad. His battle-scarred face remained stone-cold as he absorbed the horrifying details of Operation Cleansing Fire. 37 colonies marked for extermination, he muttered to his companions, including the refugee settlements in the Outer Rim. Operative Luna Cross shifted beside him, her pale features haunted by memories of her former life serving the hegemony. "The weapon manufacturing facility is our only chance," she whispered. "Without their plasma cannon production, they can't execute the operation on schedule." Sergeant Kai Novak checked his demolition charges for the 100th time, his hand steady despite the rage burning in his eyes. My wife and daughter are on New Haven Colony, he said quietly. They're on the list, Reese nodded grimly. The hegemony's massive weapons facility stretched above them like a technological cathedral, its biomechanical walls pulsing with alien energy. For 3 years it had churned out the plasma cannons that turned human worlds into glass. Tonight, that ended. Luna, you remember the security protocols? Reese asked. The defector's voice was barely audible. Level 7 houses the main reactor core. Overload it and the chain reaction will destroy everything within a 5-kilometer radius. Including us? Novak added matter-of-factly. Reese looked at his small team, 12 men and women who had lost everything to the hegemony's conquest. They weren't soldiers anymore. They were ghosts seeking vengeance, spirits who had already died with their worlds. They moved through the maintenance shafts like shadows, avoiding the insectoid guards with their clicking mandibles and multifaceted eyes. Luna's knowledge of hegemony systems proved invaluable as she bypassed security doors and disabled surveillance nodes. The facility's interior was a nightmare of organic technology. Walls that breathed, corridors that contracted like arteries, and production lines where enslaved humans assembled weapons that would destroy their own species. The sight filled Reese with cold fury. Production line Alpha, Luna whispered, pointing to massive assembly bays where plasma cannons rolled off conveyor belts. Each one can level a city. Novak began placing charges with surgical precision, his years of demolition work serving him well. Each explosive was carefully positioned to create maximum structural damage when the reactor core failed. They reached level 7 as the facility's night cycle began. Alien guards patrolled in rotating patterns, their bioluminescent armor casting eerie shadows on the walls. The reactor core hummed with malevolent energy, a crystalline heart pumping death throughout the complex. 10 minutes to plant the charges, Reese said. Then alarms shrieked through the facility. Emergency lights bathed everything in crimson as hegemony voices chittered in panic. They'd been discovered. Go, Reese shouted. Finish the mission. Plasma bolts seared the air as alien guards poured into the reactor chamber. Novak and 2 others fell in the first volley, their bodies crumpling to the floor. Luna screamed as a blast caught her shoulder, spinning her around. Reese fought like a man possessed, his rifle barking death as he carved a path through the enemy. Behind him, the surviving team members frantically placed the final charges around the reactor core. Charges set, someone yelled. 30 seconds to detonation. The facility shuddered as explosions rippled through the lower levels. Structural supports groaned and snapped as Novak's precisely placed charges fulfilled their purpose. Run, Reese commanded, but he didn't follow. Instead, he turned to face the oncoming wave of hegemony guards, his rifle held steady. Luna looked back, her eyes wide with understanding. Commander, tell them what we did here, he said simply. Tell them we showed the bastards what humans are made of. The reactor core erupted in a pillar of incandescent fury that consumed everything in its path. The explosion tore through the facility like the fist of an angry god, vaporizing production, lines, assembly bays, and 3 years' worth of accumulated weaponry. From orbit, the blast looked like a new star being born on Tempest Prime's surface. Across human space, resistance cells received the message. The hegemony's weapon production had been crippled. Operation Cleansing Fire would have to wait. Luna Cross stood among the survivors, her face streaked with tears and soot, and whispered Reese's final words into her communicator. Across a dozen worlds, human voices took up the cry. Remember Tempest Prime. Remember what we're made of. The war was far from over, but for the first time in years, humanity had hope. The rising storm, the hidden fleet gathered in the shadow of a dead star, ships emerging from hyperspace like ghosts returning to haunt their killers. Admiral Thane Corrin stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching as humanity's last hope assembled before him. Cruisers salvaged from forgotten battlefields, fighters cobbled together from scrapped parts, and civilian vessels armed with desperation. It wasn't much, but it was everything they had. 67 ships confirmed, reported Captain Vera Ashton, her youthful face marked by the same haunted determination that had become humanity's signature. At 25, she commanded what remained of the stealth squadron, pilots who had learned to dance between death and victory. Corran nodded, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. 3 months had passed since Tempest Prime's sacrifice, and the intelligence from Chronos Station had borne fruit. Resistance cells across the galaxy had united, their scattered fury focused into a single, devastating spear aimed at the heart of the hegemony. "General Webb, status on ground forces?" Corran asked. The grizzled veteran's hologram flickered to life, his scarred face grim with resolve. 5,000 Marines ready for deployment. We've got Lunacross's intelligence on Nexus Prime's defenses, and the volunteers from the liberated colonies. They know this is our only shot. Nexus Prime, the hegemony's central command world, a living planet of biomechanical towers that pulsed with alien consciousness. For decades, it had orchestrated humanity's systematic destruction. Today, that ended. Remember, Corran addressed his fleet commanders through the comm system. We're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're fighting to reclaim our future. Every world they've taken, every life they've stolen, it all ends here. The fleet jumped as one, emerging from hyperspace in a coordinated strike that caught the hegemony forces off guard. Ashton's stealth fighters swept in first, their cloaked hulls invisible against the starfield as they eliminated early warning satellites. "Defense platforms activating," called the tactical officer, as massive biomechanical structures began, powering their plasma cannons. "All ships engage," Corran commanded. Space erupted in fire and fury. Human vessels, outnumbered 3-1, fought with the ferocity of cornered wolves. The Nightfall, now refitted and battle-scarred, led the charge alongside rebuilt destroyers that had once been scrap metal. Ashton's squadron danced through the chaos, their fighters weaving between capital ship formations to strike at weak points in the hegemony's living vessels. Each kill was personal, revenge for colonies that no longer existed, for families turned to ash. "Breach in their perimeter," Webb's voice crackled through the comm. "Landing craft launching now." Thousands of human Marines descended toward Nexus Prime's surface in modified cargo haulers and salvaged assault ships. They weren't professional soldiers anymore. They were farmers whose fields had been scorched, teachers whose students had been murdered, parents whose children would never come home. The battle raged for 18 hours. Ships burned and died, on both sides their funeral pyres lighting the void between worlds. But humanity had learned something the hegemony hadn't expected: how to fight with nothing left to lose. "Central Command Complex breached," Webb reported from the planet's surface. "We're inside their neural network." Corran watched as the alien fleet began to falter, their coordination breaking down as their command structure crumbled. Without their hive mind directing them, individual hegemony ships became confused, vulnerable. "Press the attack," he ordered. "Show them what humans can do." One by one, the enemy vessels fell. The great biomechanical defense platforms went silent, their organic circuits severed by human explosives. And from Nexus Prime's surface came Webb's final transmission. "Command Nexus destroyed. The hegemony is blind." As the last enemy ship surrendered or fled, Corran allowed himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. They had done more than survive. They had won. The long night was ending and humanity's dawn was breaking across the stars. "All ships," he announced, "prepare for the liberation of Earth."